Hey everyone. It's been a bit of a rough week this last week, and when I have a bad week, I like to reach for things that make me feel homey and comforted, and for me that's always going to be IPA. So we're going to do a little bit of an IPA tasting here, February 9th at 6 o'clock. Now, we're going to open with a bang. We are going to open with the Superflux Manana. This is their Mosaic and Vic Secret Hopped Pale Ale. Absolute classic. We all know it. We all love it. But we just got some really fresh stuff, and well, this is all tasting about making me feel better, so what better place to start? Next up, this one, I've been wanting to do a tasting of all of the beers from Four Winds in this series, but they haven't been available all at the same time. So we're going to do the Hazy IPA, new from Four Winds, at least for this market. We've done their Juxtaposed Wild IPA before, but we're going to do their Hazy next. And then two brand new ones, both by Fieldhouse. We have an Eldorado Simcoe Strata IPA and a Sabro, Citra, and Coconut IPA. So those are, beyond being very weird names, those are just the list of hops that are in them, and then this has toasted coconut flakes as well. So very different, very IPA focused, but just something nice on a Wednesday night. All that and more, February 9th, 6 o'clock. See you then. I'm Kyle with Andrew Hilton, and we are doing a little bit of my own exact comfort zone. IPAs, my favorite thing going, really. I want to take you a little bit back, why I love IPAs so much. When I was first getting into the industry, I started out here in November of 2000, 22 odd years ago now. And I got brought in, very glamorously to drive the delivery truck part-time. It wasn't exactly a fun job. I can remember wearing out my lower back at the keg, back when the keg was where Moxie's is now. Their loading dock remains the absolute worst. But I got brought into the store a little while later, and I started doing the spirit side. I became the go-to Scotch guy. I started doing all of that stuff. And then eventually, I kind of discovered I really liked beer. And wine is such a giant category. You never stop learning about wine. I think to a point that's true of beer as well. But if all of spirits can fit in this much space and all of beer can fit in this much space, all of wine can't even fit in this room. Wine is so intimidating and so massive. And also we always had someone good at wine. My dad, if you go way back, Sean, who now is a wine captain before me, Devin now does basically our whole wine program. We've always had someone great at wine, but when I was really getting started, we didn't have anyone good at spirits. We didn't have anyone great at beer. And so I kind of ended up thrust into those roles to the point where, while I do host our Friday night wine tastings, wine was actually the thing I came to last. So when I was really getting into beer, the beer market at this point, and this would be about 2008-ish, was really of two minds. There was two great things about beer. There was imperial stouts, especially if it was aged in a bourbon barrel. There was lambic, but that was just kind of getting started. Sours were still very, very early. And there was IPAs, and IPAs were just the hottest ticket going. This was the halcyon days of Beer Advocate and Rate Beer, and I'm not saying that those were good sites by and large. They encouraged some really ugly things about beer trading and overvaluation and people lining up to buy bulk lots of beer to resell it online for 10 times the price. There were a lot of things at those websites that really ruined the beer market and sucked some of the fun out of it. But I did learn a great deal. I got to try a lot of beers. And more than that, I learned how to talk about and think about beer, and from there into spirits and wine, in a more methodical, thoughtful, assessing sort of way. It wasn't just like, yeah, this is a good IPA, 5 out of 5. This was, okay, this is an IPA. It's got a little less alcohol. That's kind of neat. It's kind of in this new hazier style. And kind of when I left Rate Beer and Beer Advocate, that was when the East Coast styles were really coming in. And there was a lot of debate at that point of, is East Coast IPA even a valid style? Is this something we all want to see? Or is this something that's really ruining IPA? So I owe a lot to kind of coming around with IPA and kind of growing up with it to a certain point of being at my geekiest about beer just as West Coast IPA kind of hit its peak and rolled back. And then we started seeing the emergence of East Coast IPA. So I got to be honestly way too involved in beer at a really neat time. So we are going to jump right into the Superflux here. That's not what I have in my glass, so I'm going to get rid of this. So this is Superflux. Now, Superflux needs almost no introduction, but I'll give it one anyway. Superflux is out of Vancouver, and this is a brewery that has become very much to a point kind of what Establishment and 88 and Cabin have been here, if not to a greater degree, of if you want it, you better be on a waiting list. If you want the new stuff, you better be at the brewery at open on the day it's, pardon me, on the day that it's released. Thanks, Aaron. We can edit that out, right? That's how live TV works. This brewery has become one of those, I get calls, 2 or 3 calls every week when I don't have Superflux of, when are you getting Superflux? Now, when a new hot beer, like when Love Shack came out last year, for example, we started getting calls about a week in advance saying, hey, when are you getting Love Shack? When are you getting this? When are you getting this? And we get that. Superflux is really the only brewery that we get almost year-round calls that if we're out, we get calls just for Superflux. And if we're out of a particular type of Superflux, we get calls asking for that one. Except the sour. Nobody seems to like the sour. But all of the IPAs we very much do. Now, out of that has kind of come this idea of like, oh, well, I'm hoarding Superflux somehow. No. Superflux very much is a don't call us, we'll call you sort of business model of, I get told I'm getting 4 flats of Manana or Color and Shape or whatever, and I have to take all of it. I can't take less. I can't say, oh, could I just take 2? No, you either take everything or you just don't get Superflux again. It's kind of a bizarre business model, but I really like it because it means the beer is always fresh. It means nobody's waffling on their allocations and kind of picking at it. And you end up with beer that's been in allocation for 90 days and it's not as fresh. If you're not taking your allocation right away and selling it right away, you're not getting Superflux, which means the consumer gets something very, very fresh, which is what they want. And yeah, I like the term, Chris, conveyor belt of crush. And yeah, so this is Mosaic and Vic's Secret. Mosaic is one of those classical, well, new school hops that kind of followed the Citra, Simcoe second wave hops that kind of followed the classic 3C of Cascade, Centennial, Columbus in the North American or New World Brewing list. So if you want to go right back to like the early days of like Sierra Nevada and Anchor, the big hops that were being brewed with then were like Cascade, Centennial, Chinook, Columbus, the 3Cs, which were more like 5Cs. Then you got into kind of the second wave hops, which were Simcoe and Citra, and you got these like more tropical notes, but they weren't completely as tropical as they are now. And then you get into kind of the third wave, which was Galaxy and Mosaic and Vic's Secret and some of the Japanese hops like Sriracha Ace, and then some of the New Zealand ones like Nelson Sauvignon and like Riwaka. So this is very much of that third wave of really interesting, less bitterness, more tropical fruit type notes. And we'll dig into that a little bit more when we get into the Fieldhouse beers here. But yeah, like this is just super crushable, super likable. It's higher alcohol than you'd think. Like every time I have Manana, like, oh yeah, you know, it's gonna be like 5.5, it's gonna be light, it's gonna be easy. No, it's 6.6. It's a bigger beer than you think. Not as big as like an old school West Coast IPA, but still plenty big. Would everything be considered seasonal? No. Because I think that the case with Superflux, that if you went there, Color and Shape and Manana and the Galaxy IPA, those would be for them on the shelf year round. We're very much in they satisfy BC first, and then whatever's left kind of goes to Alberta. So we get it kind of in a seasonal sense, but Superflux themselves wouldn't look at it that way. And I do believe Superflux, in fact, I know for a fact Superflux does do seasonals, but they do them in small enough quantities and they sell out quickly enough that we don't see them here. And I think we're kind of going to see the same model happen with, say, Cabin or Establishment, where super saturation and Sunshine Rain might end up being in BC, but you probably wouldn't see like Summer Saturation or one of their other seasonals coming out of province. So Superflux is going to send their core beers here basically as limited releases, but we're not going to see the seasonals commonly, if at all. And I would lean to the side of we're not going to see them at all. And yeah, you're right. The alcohol really sneaks up on you on that one. And yeah, very crushable, very juicy, lots of tropical fruit. I'm just going to take a minute to enjoy the Superflux, because who doesn't want 5 minutes to just enjoy Superflux? It's just wonderful. And Chris, just right in. This is one of your favorites. Well, I wanted this to be very much my tasting, because I wanted something kind of come back home to, because sometimes I like going out of my comfort zone, trying different things, getting weird, but you know what, every so often, I just want to come back home and drink the things I really like. And well, these kind of showed up, and it was like, well, there's 2 new IPAs, and I can finally get Extralux, and we have Superflux this week. I could try and force it, but I just want to do IPAs. And Devin's like, didn't you do IPAs like 3 weeks ago? And we talked about that for a second, and yeah, we had. But I kind of wanted to do this anyway. Yeah, and I know we get more requests for color and shape. I think I like Manana better. All right, on to number 2. Now, this is 4 wins. Now, 4 wins, of course, we've done the Juxtapose, we've done the Nectarous, we've done a few of their seasonals. And I keep wanting to do, this is called the, should have looked this up before. There's a name for this. Right, we can edit that out, right? Right, oh, this is gonna go well. Ignore what I was just saying. This is their Extralux. I don't have to explain anything, because I don't think I can cover for that now. This is a no-coast IPA. They are aiming for very much a West Coast style, using entirely East Coast hops and also an East Coast yeast. Citra, I should say, this does have Citra in it, and Citra has become equally darling about the East Coast and West Coast movements. So it does have Citra in there, giving that big tangerine note, but it is, again, sitting on that no-coast style. Yeah, very much the Dick Tracy looking at his watch holding coffee. Was that Dick Tracy or was that Eddie Valiant? I feel like that was Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but I could be wrong. Yes, there is some love on the table. That's coming up for Valentine's Day, because I can't resist a good pun. Now for this, I definitely get that West Coast influence. I get that big crunchy hop hit. I get that pine. I get that cedar. I get that like sweet grapefruit oil. I also get something vaguely animal here. I get something musky. And I don't want to make it sound bad, but like I get like clean sweat, like not body odor, not been sitting around all day, but like when you've just gotten off the treadmill and you feel better, and it's a clean sweat smell. It's before, you know, you throw it in your gym bag and it kind of goes sour in the bag. It's that clean animal smell. There's something wild and musky here that's coming from the hops, and I really like it. Lemons are really to the fore here as well. And I like how woodsy this is. And I know this is the no-coast, so it's not a true West Coast IPA at all, but I do get some real woodsy pine cedar character here. I don't know if it's a no-coast series, because I think that Juxtapose is very, very much a West Coast IPA. I had a Juxtapose last week because Mike bought a 4-pack and shared it with everybody. And that is unapologetically West Coast. It is orange, grapefruit, pine. It is less bitter than some West Coast, but I would never call it a hazy. I would never call it an East Coast style. So I think that this style for them certainly has some leanings in that we don't want to say this is an East Coast. We want to say it's a West Coast, because they don't declare it either way. They say hazy, but, well, Hazy's starting to blur the lines a little bit with beers like this, like Wave Pool. We're starting to see a little bit of a delineation where sometimes hazy doesn't mean it's just... Anybody remember that really weird one from Best of Kin, that like big hat IPA that just tasted like Rickard's White or like Blue Moon, and it had no perceivable bitterness? It was just like, here's some orange juice and also some liquor and kind of a vague wheatiness. In fact, it reminds you more of Hoegaarden than it does an IPA. That's kind of the wrong way to do this style. I like this a little bit more bitterness style. Also, Aaron very, very badly wants a bottom light for a beer so that you can actually get the color through it even when it's a very dark beer. So he's kind of faking it by balancing a wine glass on top of a beer can. And yeah, that's that savory note. There's something salty, there's something animal here, and I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm fascinated by it, and that's why I keep coming back to it.
Sea salt?
No, it's like... It's musky. It's not quite leathery. Leathery's the wrong word.
Oh, yeah, it's right here.
It's... Yeah, yes, Aaron. It's the one you precariously balance on that beer can, because we haven't spilled enough beer today.
I know the funk.
Yeah, it's a funky thing. Yeah. I don't know how to put it better than that. And yet it's not really there in the mouth. It doesn't finish funky. It finishes actually almost like mandarin orange rind more than anything else. Yeah. It's a really neat beer. And when we put it up against like a giant like Superflux, and again, okay, Four Winds has been a very, very good brew for a very long time in BC. And if we were having this conversation 5 years ago, we'd be saying, oh, Four Winds, we finally have it. Look how rare this is. But things have moved on. All right, Four Winds, you know what? That's staying relevant right there. That's really screaming good. That's better than I thought that was going to be.
I don't disagree with teriyaki.
Teriyaki beef jerky?
Funny, like maybe soy sauce or something like that.
Well, it's definitely savory, and I don't know. Yeah, like almost like meat sweat sort of smell. Yeah, like oily meat. I don't know what it is. And all of those sound so off-putting, but it's actually very appealing, and that's why it's so hard to nail down. I guess teriyaki beef jerky is kind of a good smell. Maybe that's as close as we can come. Yeah, if anyone has a better term, umami beer, yes, absolutely. Yes, Fieldhouse does have a tough road ahead of the first two. I agree, especially since we're going into a very hard, completely unapologetic West Coast IPA next. This is going to be a hard shift into the Strata. See, when people use dank, I tend to think like those really prominent cannabis notes that can pop up in like a heavily hopped, especially West Coast IPA. Like, I don't smoke. I don't oppose people who smoke. I just don't like how it affects me. And I have enough bloody vices, to be honest. So, no. When I hear dank, I tend to think like cannabis notes. I think like, you know, sticky, resiny, piney into skunky. Like, I don't want to think of Heineken as a dank beer, but if I described it as such, you'd immediately know what I was talking about. And there are certainly some IPAs, maybe not so much anymore, but certainly 10 years ago, if you described an IPA as being very dank, you would definitely get that cannabis-style aroma off of the hops because they're very closely related plants. So that's usually what I associate the word dank with.
Dank.
And Aaron associates it with trying to bring back his long, long gone youth. If only everyone at home could hear this hilarious repartee. Also, by the way, Sky is actually behind the computer tonight, and Aaron is running the cameras tonight, so if anything goes horribly wrong, it's still Aaron's fault, because he's supervising Sky.
Yeah, that's just a subcontractor.
And again, since you're not behind the computer, no one can hear you, Aaron. Well, they can't if you don't turn on your mic, Sky. All right, let's jump into Fieldhouse. Now, Fieldhouse has been a brewery that I've had my eye on for a while. I've been kind of waiting to do a Fieldhouse tasting, and I think that will come up in the next few months. The problem is Fieldhouse never ever has 4 beers in stock all at the same time. Or when they do, it's like 3 out of 4 sours, and it's the coldest week in December, and I'm not suicidally just doing a sour tasting in December 12th when we're going to sell 5. They make really fascinating beer. They have a super crazy like farm to table idea. So they're based in Chilliwack, which is actually the hop growing capital of Canada. Canada doesn't grow a huge amount of hops, but we're growing every single year. And I think at this point we almost grow enough hops as a country to support our craft brewing industry, or very, very close. Fieldhouse, based in Chilliwack, they not only, farm their own barley, or at least they've started to. It's not 100%, but they've started their own barley growing project. They either grow their own hops, or they have very close personal relationships with their hop growers. They have a restaurant and brew pub in Chilliwack, and also one in Abbotsford. Both of those, all of their produce that they serve in their restaurants, they grow themselves. They're very farm to table. They're very, very and not just farm to table, but barley field to glass, which is a whole other level of commitment, which I think is very, very fun. And let's jump in here. So this is their Eldorado, Simcoe, Strata IPA. For anyone not familiar, Eldorado, Simcoe, and Strata are all hop varieties. Eldorado, I believe, is a similar hop to Citra, in the sense that it's got a whole bunch of tangerine, it's got a whole bunch of really interesting sweeter citrus to it. Simcoe, traditionally speaking, is just pure grapefruit all the time. Strata, I actually pulled up a infographic on my phone, which of course I can't show you, but I can actually talk about a little tiny bit, because I actually did do the research on Strata. And now the website's not loading. Thanks, phone. This is very helpful. Nothing like this happening live on camera. There we go. Okay. Yes, Strata. Its big note is actually apparently strawberry, as well as melon and bubblegum. It's a very tropical hop. So you'd be looking for a traditional West Coast hardline backbone, and then add on to that very delicate notes like bubblegum and melon and strawberry. So I'm hoping we'll get a bit of a dichotomy on this one of not quite no coast, because I think this is pretty identifiably West Coast, but I hope we get a little bit of East Coast influence on this beer. He does kind of sound like my sarcastic deity with a wonderful mustache. I should get the bubblegum as much as the strawberry and the nose tile, double bubble gum. That was harder to say than it should have been. Well, I do believe somebody said that, these were going to be a hard act to follow. I'll say it's a little thin on the finish, maybe a touch oniony at the back, like most West Coast styles are. I kind of feel like that can follow those just fine. That's quite all right. I also liked the idea of, this isn't, Aaron's Presidential Select IPA. This is just these are the names of the hops we put in it. That's our IPA. I kind of like how simple and brutalist that is, of just what's it called? These are the hops we put in it. There you go. Enjoy your beer. And shut up. You like the font?
Font's good. Good font.
Like Comic Sans, but not Sans.
It is not. Comic Sans. Jesus.
No, I'm just fucking with Aaron. I know it's not close. It's melon, and yet the melon shifts depending on where you get it in the glass. If I rest my nose right against the side of the glass here, it comes off almost more like watermelon, like it's very tropical. Whereas right in the middle, the melon is very subdued, and it's more like honeydew, or maybe, I don't think it's as ripe as cantaloupe. It's very green in the middle, but it gets riper towards the edge in this shape of glass. Again, everyone's glass is going to be different. See, yeah, I like that ripe melon, so I want to just shove my nose all the way in and then stick it to the side of the glass. Doesn't really look cool on camera, but you know. That's where I get that watermelon, that salted watermelon, and I really like it. Not doing it again, Aaron. Nope, not doing it again. I think these two are very similar beers. I mean, they're both 7%. It's very likely they're the same base beer. Fieldhouse's website, again, like they don't include brewing recipes. They don't include like aroma wheels. They just have like a one sentence paragraph about what the beer is about and their inspiration and d. So I didn't get very much information. I did do some looking around. I read a couple articles about like the people behind Fieldhouse. I read a really interesting article about like their barley to table philosophy on their brewing, but I didn't find anything about their actual recipes. I didn't find anything like an interview with like a homebrewing blog or anything where he talked about his philosophies, which is one of the things I always look for is like, forget the first page of Google results to a certain point. I go looking for like, this guy is based in Vancouver and he has a Tumblr. Remember Tumblr? But he has it all about homebrewing. It's just a whole bunch of like homebrewing recipes from breweries around the mainland. There are a couple of really great resources like that are out there, but you don't find them on the first page of Google search results. And I tend to find really interesting information the deeper I look. And I realize that's all algorithm to death, and they just want to sell me this beer, not actually give me any information about that. I know that's how the internet's set up now. But I don't know. This one was a little bit elusive. Like this, I found everything I needed to on page 1 of Google, like brewmaster's notes, history of it, really good interview about when this beer was launched, all this stuff, all right there. Superflux, I mean, their information on the recipes is right on their main page. These two, it was tougher. There was not as much information to be found. And I wonder if they kind of have missed out on the hype train in BC a little tiny bit so that they aren't as in demand. But I also know that like their stuff sells out real fast. So maybe they're not as hyped here, but maybe they are there. Apparently I'm telling you that I do my own research. Yes. God, God. QAnon beer tasting. God help us all. No, I do in fact do my own research, but you know, I do take it from like homebrewing blogs and the brewer's own websites. I'm sorry if you're gonna do this. You do kind of have to do your own research. No one else is gonna do it for me. God, I hate how that's been completely ruined. I do my own research. I'm Joe Rogan. God, fucking help us all. Absolutely garbage human being. I probably get bleeped out all the time, Sean. That will happen. And you're right, Justin. Like the ability for hops to mimic so many different flavor compounds, so many different aroma compounds. Like, you know, when I initially started out by saying, you know, the spirits world is this many flavors and beer is this many and wine's the side of the room. What I wanted to finish up by saying when we got to kind of the end is that, well, it was that way when I first started in 2000 or 2001. I don't think it's that way anymore. I think that with these new hop strains and with things like the East Coast versus West Coast divide and kettle sours versus Flanders sours versus lambics, and then the wide variety of stouts that are out there, and we'll get to that in a second because, spoiler warning, we're doing stouts next week. It's kind of gotten to the point where beer is not ever going to catch up to wine. There are way too many different wine grapes, and way too many different ways you can make it. But beer has far more to offer itself and to offer the world than I think most people really give it credit for. And I don't regret coming to wine last. I think that I was, in a way, quite lucky in that I did come to it last because I was able to form my opinions of beer and spirits first before I came to, you know, the big monolith in wine and said, oh, well, now I've gotten serious. Well, I was pretty serious before. And you're right, Craig. That is pretty close to comment of the year. Also, so Eric knows, I am absolutely going to be online and trolling when you two do your tasting in 2 weeks.
Is that the
Good old
16th?
That is the 23rd.
Oh, after.
So we have the Stout tasting, and then we have Eric and Craig.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good old Queric. Good old Q Eric. Sorry, I'm not even trying to suggest that. We're not going to even try that. All right. Let's talk about what we've got coming up next week. Where Eric immediately resigns in disgust and says, I'm never doing this thing. Which would be entirely fair on his part. So, next week, we are going to do stouts. Now, I didn't want to do stouts next week, if only because it's kind of got some overlap with what Craig and Eric want to do, but I really tried to do something else. And every time I tried to say, like, oh, I want to do a sour, I want to do like this, so I just, everything that was new and cool that was coming out was kind of in this style. So eventually I just kind of gave it and said, well, this is what the universe wants, so I guess this is what the universe gets. So we're going to do some flavored stouts. We're going to start with the Snake Lake Commodore Stout. This is our baseline. It's an excellent stout, very classic, very right what you'd expect from a stout. And then we're going to add to that. So I'll add sea salt, hazelnut, and chocolate to the Born Brewing First Love, which to me tastes like those, my late uncle really liked them, those like cherry blossoms you get at the convenience store, kind of like the yellow box. I don't know if you can still buy them, but that's kind of what it reminds me of, is that exact flavor. From Annex, whose names I can never remember, Midnight Agenda. This is their coffee stout. I got a chance to try this yesterday. It's excellent. Big coffee hit, but it's not astringent. It's left just enough sweetness in the beer to kind of play off. The rub with coffee stouts is if you leave enough coffee in there to give it big, profound coffee flavor, you end up with so much acidity the beer tastes astringent. And if you try to sweeten it up too much to counterbalance that, the beer can very easily be too sweet. Leaving a beer that has enough residual sweetness where the acidity from the coffee is in balance, but before it starts masking the coffee flavor, is very difficult. I think they nailed it. Finally, from Stronghold and New Level, we have their Gimme Some More. You'll be very shocked to learn this is a s'mores stout. So graham cracker, chocolate, marshmallow. I get tons of cinnamon, tons of nutmeg. I do get chocolate. I get a very odd perceived marshmallow on this, which I don't know where it's coming from. I shouldn't like this. It really works though. So that's coming up Wednesday. Friday, well, oh, Friday. Friday's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to the 18th a great deal. This is what happens when you leave me unsupervised, folks. Not only do I have a beer hiding behind the samples, but oh, this one. Well, last year we did a rosé tasting for Valentine's Day, and it was very successful, and I really appreciate that. Thank you all. But, well, I don't like repeating myself too much. I can't just do another rosé tasting on top. So we're going to take the rosé tasting, we're going to twist it a little bit. So we're going to do the Rosa Petsovitz from Franz Vinegar. So this is a orange wine that is also a rosé, that's also one of the most interesting, challenging, aggressive natural wines in the store, but is also something I think almost anyone would enjoy. So we're going to have a real love it or hate it in the crowd with this one, and I can't wait to see how many people are like, this is the worst thing I've ever had. This is the best thing I've ever had. What the hell were you thinking? I can't wait to taste more. It's going to be so argumentative and so beautiful, and I absolutely love the wine itself. This one's going to be fun. Then we're going to change gears. It's Valentine's Day. We're going to do some sparkling. And this one I've liked for a very long time, but we've never been able to do enough stock on this one. This is by Domaine Rosier. You're absolutely already familiar with their whites. The Blanquette de Limoux we do on sale at $15.95 every Christmas. Their Cremant de Limoux is kind of like our house sparkling at $21. The rosé we don't get very much, and it usually sells out very quickly. This time it showed up about 5 days before Christmas, so we didn't have time to sell it. So I have a couple of extra cases, so we're just going to do it in the tasting because, oh, I love this wine. There's a reason this is the one that sells out first every year. It's glorious, it's strawberries, it's cherries, it's just It's a wonderful, wonderful glass of sparkling wine, and it's got a great history to it coming from Lemieux. This is going to be fun. Then we're going to do the new vintage of Love Red. This is by Brock Cellars, of course, and it's Valentine's Day, so we're doing Love, the wine. I don't know, I ran out of ideas 6 months ago. You try putting together 2 years with these tastings. We're doing Love Red for Valentine's Day. It happens to be a really fun, really wonderful, lovely, fresh, bright red, lots of fruit characteristic, has a fun story when we talk about the Valdegay that's in it and how it was like an abandoned grape in California. Lots to talk about here, lots of interest. And then we're going to do something very stupid and something I absolutely love. This is a milk chocolate sake by Homare. This is something I shouldn't like. I shouldn't like this. I don't want to like this. It's a sake with milk chocolate. It's a cloudy, chunky sake. Can you actually get any of this lovely chunk action, Aaron?
What?
Can you actually get that? Action? Can you get the chunk action?
Probably. I'm a master.
Can you see how chunky it is?
Can you give it just a swirl?
Yes, I can.
Okay, now just leave it.
Can you get the chunk?
Okay, just let it focus for... Yeah, okay. Got it, Sky?
Yeah.
Dang, look at the chunks.
Look at the chunks. So, I shouldn't like this. You shouldn't like this. However, it tastes like milk chocolate. It's absolutely amazing. I think you're all going to absolutely adore this. So, we're doing some love. We're doing some chocolate. We're doing some rosé. It's going to be silly, but it's also kind of a Valentine's themed tasting, and it should be silly. So, we're going to have fun with it. It's kind of supposed to be like a fun, silly date night experience as a we don't want to go out to restaurant kind of Valentine's experience. So that's how we're putting it. This will be February the 18th on the Friday night. It will be at 6 o'clock. I do recommend having something else for your Valentine on the 14th because, you know, hey, I bought you this wine tasting 4 days from now is not going to fly. But this should be very, very fun. No more chunk action. You'll take the chunk action and like it, Eric. Okay, so Sabro Citro Coconut IPA. This one's very different, and I can't wait to hear the opinions come in on this. Sabro is supposed to be one of those wonder hops, one of those miracle hops that taste like so many things that hops aren't supposed to taste like. I actually have the flavor wheel for this on my phone for Sabro, which is taking forever to load because of course it is. There we go. I do not want to watch the video. So formerly known as HBC 438, fruity citrus, tangerine, coconut, tropical fruit, and stone fruit, and then cedar, mint, and cream. And then it also is quite famous for having notes of like really profound coconut even on its own. And then they're adding coconut on top. So it should be super coconutty. And in theory, the hops and the coconut should work together. Do they? Well, let's find out. In honesty, I thought I'd get more coconut. I kind of built up the coconut a lot. Well, I haven't tasted it yet. I'm on the nose. I get like the most glorious, like clean lime, like beautiful lime. And there's definitely some like it almost kind of smells more like a mojito with like with mint and lime. Oh yeah, there's tons of coconut there, isn't there? Yep. No more chunk action. Give me our new catchphrase for the channel. No more chunk action. Welcome to our beer tasting. No more chunk action. Yeah. I think Aaron just hates doing these at this point.
Today we will have chunk.
I mean, the hop profile does say the cream is supposed to come from the hops, but I also will admit that it very much could be coming from the coconut as well. It could be coming from the fats and kind of that coconut body. I mean, it oddly reminds me of a pina colada, like very limey pina colada. Like if somebody was on their first day and threw marg mix in the pina colada and made it badly, but between the pineapple and the coconut and like the high alcohol level, there is something here that even through everything else kind of makes me feel a little pina colada-y, and I was not expecting that. I don't hate it either. I mean, I knew this was going to be divisive, and I fully expected to come down on the side of don't like it, number 4, move on, dead last. It might still be number 4. It might. But
not as 4 as expected.
Not as 4 as expected. And actually, I don't like myself for this. I don't like myself at all. And okay, Tyler loves pina coladas, but doesn't like this. Good. We need someone to talk us off this ledge of loving this too much. And hey, you know, Megan is not an IPA person and loves this. So you know what? Good. My goal of this being super divisive is fulfilled. Now fight. As is the tradition of the internet. How the heck do you rank these? I'm gonna put the Superflux up top. That's gonna be my 1. And the rest of it. Nope, I'm gonna do it. I'm actually gonna put the coconut 2.
Whoa.
Come at me. You feel free. By all means, just bring the hate. I'm gonna put the coconut 2. I am. I'm gonna put the Extralux 3rd, and unusually for me, who loves all things old school West Coast IPA, I'm actually gonna put the Strata 4. But you know what? That, if I was just going over like my friend's house to like bring a 4-pack of beers, like hooked on my finger, and like $10 in my pocket to pitch towards pizza, and we're just gonna go watch like, you know, the Montreal Canadiens get beat the ever-loving shit out of by anyone else in the league. That would be, yeah, exactly. We're going to Devin Vincent's place. Yeah, and he's just gonna cry into his beer. But yeah, if that's what I was doing, I'd rather the Superflux, but I'd take that over these. I really would, and I think I'd enjoy all 4 cans. And with something that coconutty, that sweet, I normally would say, no, I can't do more than 1. I think I could do 4 of those.
Didn't hate it.
So I'll bring them back into the original order so that I can actually make sense of the rankings. We have 1, 2, 4, 3 from Terry. Chris has 1, 4, 2, 3. Hey, Chris and I actually have the same rankings. Look at that. That never happens. Craig has 1, 2, 4, 3. We're seeing a lot of 3 at the tail end, which, yeah, I'm right there. I'm with you. Good beer, liked it, enjoyed it. I think in future this will be the one you'll see on our shelves. I don't know if this is going to come back. And that's not a slight on it. It's just, well, when we do these, a lot of our best beer customers attend, and when something comes in dead last, it doesn't tend to do very well in future. 2, 1, 3, 4. Interesting, like that. And then 1, 4, 2, 3. Okay. Try how many other people actually have the coconut number 2. I was not expecting. I thought I'd be standing on an island of myself. with the coconut. Aaron, where are you with this one?
Ooh. Mm. Yeah, one.
And Sky, did you even have them all?
Yep.
And
I'd say the same. 1, 4.
1, 4, 2,
sorry,
3.
1, 2, 4, 3.
Okay, so we have 2 votes, Aaron and Sky, for 1, 2, 4, 3. 1, 4, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 4. You know, I'm glad to see somebody voted. Thank you, Kevin. The Extralux number 1, because that's a very worthy beer for somebody to put in first place. Also interesting is many people had this second. Nobody put this first. So everyone who liked the Superflux, or most people who liked the Superflux, also really liked the coconut. But nobody liked it more than the Superflux. So interesting. It's kind of a odd duck in this lineup. I mean, it's a cool beer. The strawberry kind of adds that unique character to a West Coast IPA. But again, Superflux is unapologetically East Coast. This is aiming for a no coast with an East Coast bias. This is reasonably East Coast. And then this one sticks out as being an old-fashioned late 1990s, early 2000s West Coast. We're almost tasting a completely different beer style in the midst of a different, more popular beer style. It's kind of like saying, hey, we're doing German lagers, and we do a Helles, and we do a Pilsner, and then we do a smoked lager from Bamberg, and then we finish up with like a Munkner Gold. It's going to stand out, and it's going to seem weird, and it's going to be very much love or hate it, and just like a smoked beer, a West Coast IPA compared to an East Coast, it's not going to attract as many fans. So, cool beer. I love that they're doing West Coast, but maybe this could carry a different table. I'm not sure it could, but I think maybe it might be able to do like if we did a West Coast lineup, this would do better. I'm not 100% convinced of that. I think it showed as well as it could in this lineup. Yeah, and Craig's kind of in the same place as I am. Yep. I think there is a lineup where it would shine. I think it was just too weird for this lineup. All right, I think we'll call her there. Thank you to Aaron and Sky. Thank you to all of you. This was a lot of fun. Next week, join us on Wednesday for big, chunky flavored stouts. And then on Friday for Valentine's weirdness, a couple of rosés, a red, and then the chunky chocolate madness, which is going to be very, very fun. Until then, I've been Kyle with Andrew Hilton. I really appreciate all of you joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Good night.